Hello and welcome to our channel. Welcome to our video. Feel free to leave comments down below. Okay, the problem with bikes on a bike rack and what to do about it. As you know that bicycles on hitch racks will block the ability for cars behind you to see your brake lights, turn lights, and this is true whether they got a bike cover over them or not, and can get you pulled over. So of course with every problem there's a solution, and the solution that I came up with is adding some brake lights, turn signals, marker lights to the bike rack. I'm not sure why the factory doesn't do this to begin with. The bike rack that I use is a Hollywood Destination E bike rack. This bike rack has the capacity to carry two 70-pound bikes. It also includes a loading ramp to assist with getting the heavy bikes on and off the rack. Of course, when you're going to do a project, you've got to buy a bunch of stuff and get it all together. So I got some LED trailer lights and a 4-pin trailer wire harness, some 1-inch square tubing, some aluminum flat stock wire connectors, some various wires of yellow and brown. And here we'll talk about the anatomy of the bike rack. This is looking at the driver's side of the rack. We're going to call this area to the left the front of the rack, and we'll call this area to the right the rear of the rack. And this cross piece here we're going to call the rack tube. Let's get started. First thing you're going to do is remove the wheel chock, and you do that by removing this nut and bolt, and then the chock will slide right off. Then take out the two screws, pull the friction fit end caps from the front and rear of the bike tube. From the 1-inch square tube, cut it in half. You'll have about 18 inches. You'll see that this is going to allow it to fit when reinstalled and allow the nuts of the bolts to not go inside the tube of the bike rack. With the 1-inch stock bar, cut two pieces about 6 or 8 inches each, fold them to a 90-degree angle. Take those 90-degree bars and put them on the end of the tube by drilling some holes. Drill the holes in the flat stock to accommodate the mounting bolts also to the light that you're using, and attach the light. Slide the 1-inch metal tube into the bike rack, and when you've completed it, it will look something like this. Take the front end cap and drill a hole in the bottom portion of it in order to pass the 3 light wires through it. When you're wiring the light, I made sure the connections would be left inside the light. Tie a knot in the wires, feed them through the drip hole, connect a grounding wire to the light's mounting bolt, and then run this yellow, brown, and grounding wires down through the tube and out the front of the rack tube. Thread them through that front end cap hole and reinstall the cap. When you've done this, it'll look something like this. The tube sticking in there and wires hanging out the back. After you've inserted the 1-inch tubing into the rack, you put the 2 screws back in. However, make sure that those screws penetrate through the wall of the 1-inch tubing. Then after you've inserted the screws, put the wheel chock back on using the same nut and bolt. Then you're going to apply some protective shielding for the wires. This will cover up the colors and protect the wires. I had to drill a hole in the rack, the plastic portion, to allow a zip tie to be placed to hold this shielding area. The other zip tie was ran through the extra adjustment hole in the rack arm. The driver's side is done. Now do the same thing to the passenger side. When you've got both sides done, you'll have the open ends of the sheathing with 6 wires hanging out, 3 from the left, 3 from the right. These need to be connected to the trailer wire harness that you have, and you'll also need to connect the ground wires. I removed the nut from the bike rack and placed the ground wires on it, replaced the nut and the plastic safety cap back over that. I realized that these lights that I have a clear lens at the bottom, so when you fold the bike trailer up, you'll have white light shining through the clear lens, especially at night. The way that I solved that was that I bought some red lens repair tape from the local auto parts store, placed it on it, trimmed off the edges, problem solved. It's time to put the lights to the test. If the lights appear to be a weird angle, just bend the 1-inch aluminum stock.
Headlights. Good. Brakes. Brakes off. Headlight off. Left turn. Right turn. Off. Brakes. Off.